Today we have had a balance of power video, a Fortuner turn on by Dave that looks at all the combat changes that have happened, why they've happened and what they're doing in the future, and there's some very interesting changes coming up. Now before I start, I am aware that there was a patch today. This patch has brought some crashes and maybe some other issues that I'll talk a little bit more about at the end. So it starts with Dave talking about the intensity of balance changes. This is basically people having to get new gear, and a lot of people were frustrated at this. They did mention this in the community Q&A, but it's reiterated here. Basically they're happy with the frequency but not the intensity. The minor patches should be little sort of like tweaks of the dial, and then maybe the major patches should be, you know, big yanks of the dial. Overall, that makes sense. They do speak about here as shirking heals is going to be walked back a little bit. It's going from, instead of being a 10-second cooldown, it's going to be 7 seconds, which is what a lot of people were speculating on Twitch and just in general. And then they move on to healing, which is a big subject in this video basically. They mentioned 4 pillars, which I'm not going to recite because I don't fully have them written down in front of me. But they talk about what they sort of want for healing to be, and they want that healing fantasy where you come in and save your teammates, but they also want counters to that. As well, they want healing to sort of be a little bit risky, because there are some huge rewards that come with it, as well as potentially giving people the option for playing even though they don't have a healer. So with that in mind, there's a couple of things that they spoke about. That was obviously the justification for the disease changes, having the counters, but one of the things that they might look at is actually buffing some of the healing on the other weapons. Specifically, I'm presuming the Void Gauntlet and the Flail. Now the risk is, if you just buff the healing on those weapons, then they would possibly become very overpowered. A lot of the life staff healing is simply like healing over time, and it's not very interesting in my opinion. I mean, I don't really play healer, but I don't think it's very fun personally. Now maybe there are some people who really like it, but I think it could probably be a little bit more engaging. What we want is for healers to be balanced, and we want healers to have fun. They're really my 2 core philosophies. Not that I have any say in the matter, but that's what I would like. So anything that they do there, I would be happy for. I mean, a lot of people just don't like Sacred Ground, and I have to throw my 2 pence into that one. I really think Sacred Ground, it's overpowered, it's boring, it's not interesting, and it sort of ruins a lot of the fights. However, it does sort of mean that we get some clumps, which is probably quite good in something like Outpost Rush, as opposed to, you know, all the range meta. So there's a lot of variables there. I'm not going to dwell on it, but hopefully in the long run we can get some really positive healing changes that make them balanced and fun. And for the self-sustain, I don't know if this is intentional. I think they're buffing Endless Thirst. There was a little bit of confusion because of the percentages. They basically said they want to buff it a little bit because it's the least used like jewelry piece, so hopefully they will do it. I think the cooldown reduction is going to be 25%, but the bust to the potion is going to be 33, I think. They did also address Splash of Light being 25 meters. They said they would have liked that to have been like walked down, so like, you know, in steps. However, if they are going to buff it, instead of changing the range, they'll just buff it in other ways. They like it at 25 meters because it works with the UI. Alright, makes sense. And then there are some big changes to artifacts and some attribute threshold bonuses. So the first artifact they talk about is the Bolt Caster. That stun is gone and is being changed with something that I think if you do 3 basic attacks, the 3rd attack will do like a big, basically explosion of lightning damage. A big bolt of lightning damage, I guess. Okay, that makes sense. They say that basically the first iteration was a little bit annoying. Alright, fair enough. They also mentioned Koya's Knee Guards, which is a upcoming artifact in Season 4. That's getting changed. So this was literally just going to be physical ranged attacks, and it was going to reduce the damage by like 15%. They are now changing that to all range damage, and it's going to reduce it by 10%. So a little bit of a nerf, but it's now going to apply to everything. That, if I'm honest, is very strong. So we'll see what happens with that. I like the sound of it. I think it sounds strong. I think, yeah, very interesting how that's going to play out. They did speak about some of the gem changes that they had planned for Season 4, and effectively they're nerfing that a little bit. They say that they went in with too high of percentage, and they're going to make it basically 75% scaling for int and 65% scaling for focus. If I'm honest, the scaling that they wanted to go with felt like it was going to be way too strong, and we'd have like healers doing insane damage and mages just being able to pick whatever weapon combination they wanted. So I think this is probably a good change here. But they highlight something that I think is quite accurate, and that is that the attribute threshold bonuses for intelligence are actually very strong. Probably the best, and they sort of say as much. So one thing that they are going to do, I think, in Season 4 is the 150 intelligence attribute threshold bonus is having its elemental damage changed down from 15% to 10%. I think that seems reasonable. The other one they might look at, which is my speculation, maybe the ability damage from the 350 one. But I mean, you know, they didn't say that, I'm saying that. They mentioned the blunderbuss. The blunderbuss they say is quite strong, but no changes to make at this time. Obviously they've like done some changes in the past, and I think it's heading in the right direction. I'm seeing it a little bit less personally. Probably still strong, to be fair, but I mean, as long as it's not super strong, then, you know, maybe they're happy to wait until that happens. The other thing that they mentioned was the flail. Now, the flails had a couple of issues. Mainly, they think it's quite strong because of 2 bugs. The speed buff bug, which they think they fixed, and actually it should have been in the minor patch today, and another bug, which if I'm honest, I didn't understand, but apparently it's been making it quite strong. I'm not going to elaborate because I don't know what it is, but that is, I think, is fixed in Season 4. However, let's quickly talk about today's patch. I won't go through the patch notes, but I'll tell you what has happened is basically it's causing crashes. It crashed for me on stream. I was in Outpost Rush, I crashed. Now, it only happened to me once in like a 6-hour playthrough, but still, a lot of people are reporting crashes specifically in Outpost Rush, but I did also see it, somebody crashed going into a mutation. So beware, crashes are definitely happening, that's true. Overall though, I think the information from Dave here was actually quite positive. I pretty much agreed with everything here. The answers from Monday I was a little bit sad about, but the answers from this balance of power, yeah, I actually say I think I'm quite positive with them. Let's see what changes we get when we actually get Season 4, and let's see how it affects the balance. The balance of power. By the way, my eyes are very stingy today, so if I look knackered, it just is what it is. I can't control it. Big shout out to my Patreons, so I really appreciate you guys. If you want to support the channel, that's actually the best way to do it. The second best way is probably to subscribe, really, but you can come and watch me over on Twitch. I stream pretty much 6 days a week, pumping out the hours. Come follow me over on Twitch, I would very much appreciate that. Other than that, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.